Hi there, it's morning on the first day of spring in Goldcrest Valley at my wonderful pig farm. It's been snowing. The pigs don't care. Because it snowed, I can't really do any work. I could do some forestry, but I can't touch the fields. The pigs don't need looking after, because snow's keeping their cleanliness at 100%, which is handy. Things are very different here. It's because I'm playing with the Seasons mod. I've played about 5 years. It makes you play very, very differently. This is everything I own. And it may even be too much. Welcome to Seasons. And the best place to start the explanation is at the beginning. So this is the first screen you'll get when you start your first Seasons game. In fact, every Seasons game. Spring is here, flowers and trees blossom, and it is time to cultivate and sow your fields. And that just reinforces the message that this is all about the seasons. Now firstly, I'm going to go into the main game options. Now on this set I can change whatever I need to. I'm going to switch the help window on because it will be a little bit more helpful for us with what we're looking at. All of these options you can change absolutely as normal. However, on this screen you can change time, you can turn the traffic off, you can mess with the dirt. You cannot switch on automatic engine start, but you can switch off stop go braking, which I do prefer to do. Also notice that by default all of these are switched to buy, so even if you go to the effort at the start of your game to buy your fertilizer and your seed, your workers are going to buy it rather than use what you've given them. Now also notice we cannot adjust plant growth or plant withering, but do not panic. That is not going to be a problem as long as you pay reasonable attention to what is going on. You can change the options on on ploughing, and you can change the options on fertilizer stages needed. Now, I am playing on Xbox One. I'd like to make that clear. I think in terms of controls, everything will translate to the PlayStation 4 pretty well. For those PC players of you out there, I think all of the game principles that I'm going to talk about in this video will obviously apply. It's just a question of the controls and how you get them on your keyboard and your mouse rather than the button pushes that I have to make. Now, having said that, on top of our normal options menu for the game, we have a seasons option menu, and on my Xbox you get that by pressing left bumper, right bumper, and the normal button you get to get the option screen up in game, whatever that is called now. It used to be the start button. Now, this is the calendar. This is the fundamental basis of this game. It dictates what you can and can't do. It dictates what's going on in the markets. It dictates everything. And it also dictates the passage of time regardless of the number of days you have chosen to play your seasons in. And here we are. This is the actual Seasons mod option menu. Now first of all, we can turn on or off the season introductions. They're those little messages. It's spring, it's summer, it's autumn, etc. I leave them on because I'm 47 years old and any reminder of what's going on is helpful. Keys in the help menu, on or off. I leave the help menu on, partly so it helps you guys watching. Now you can change the temperature here from Fahrenheit to Celsius. I have noticed though that if you change it to Celsius, which is easier for an Englishman like me, it will change to Celsius in the on-screen weather forecast display, which I'll show you shortly. It won't, however, change in this calendar display, which is a little bit confusing. I just leave it on Fahrenheit so everything matches up. Now snow mode, on or off. You want to leave that on really. I don't know why you want to play seasons and leave it off. Snow tracks, on or off. Crop moisture, on or off. That basically is an effective rain. It delays you being able to harvest your crops for quite a while. It will also have a very bad effect on any straw, grass or hay that you have laying about on the fields or left out in the open, but we'll talk about that later too. Right here, season length. This is how many days the game will split a season into. Now this is the fundamental way that you can control how you play the game really. Now, on 9 days per season, as you can see, we've got 4 seasons. We have to have 4 seasons. They are split into 3 sections of 3 days. So the first 3 days you play will be early spring. Now, the game works purely on those seasons in terms of crop growth, in terms of daily costs such as vehicle maintenance, animal costs, property maintenance costs, also the amount of food you need to feed your animals. That is per season. So regardless of how much you've sliced it up into days by playing on 3 days per season, 9 days a season, or even all the way up to 24 days a season, you will still in that season need to feed them the same. So if you play on 3 days per season, each day they'll need 3 times more food given to them than if you were playing on 9 days per season. And if you play on 3 days per season, your vehicle maintenance cost will be per day 3 times what they'd be on playing 9 days per season. So the total for the season on those things is always the same. Bear that in mind. The only thing playing more days will cost you is potentially more in petrol because you're driving more in leasing costs, because some of those charges are per day, although I don't really think that will make an issue either, because I think they are split in the same way. And you can spend more money, but your overheads, your daily background costs will not fluctuate per season, they will fluctuate per day. Now I'm going to switch the days per season to 3, just because I think it makes explaining some of these things a little bit clearer. Now here we are. The primary information this calendar is giving us is when we can plant crops and when we can expect to harvest them. The green bars are when we can plant, and the yellow bars are when we can harvest. And you can see oilseed, radish, popular, grass, they're pretty much year round, although bear in mind with grass you will only probably get 2 cuts a year maximum. Now the green numbers here indicate that it's currently today too cold for those seeds to germinate, so they will not grow. If you plant anything that has yet to have a green bar for this time of the year, this first growth season here, which is early spring, then it will die because it is too cold. However, if you plant wheat, barley, canola, potatoes, sugar beet on this first day, they may remain dormant. You might not actually get the full growth each step of the game. It will sit there maybe for a day doing absolutely nothing. And that's down to the numbers, the temperatures being blue. If they are blue, then it is too cold for that type of seed to germinate. So as you see, if we planted grass today, it would be absolutely fine. Now, with those crops, as I said, the ones that can handle the colder temperatures, they'll lie dormant, and the other ones will die. The numbers will turn white when that day's temperature, the current temperature, is okay for them to germinate. However, if we press left bumper and right bumper and press B, we can put up the weather forecast, which will be for 7 days. And this will be regardless of how you're actually playing the seasons. As you can see here, we're on 9-day seasons, so every day is spring. If I turn that back, excuse me, wrong menu, easily done by an old man. Now there you can see we're seeing all the way through to autumn there on the weather forecast, and rain is an issue, which we shall look at later, and the soil temperature basically tomorrow will be 45, so anything we plant today, because the temperature tomorrow will be warm enough for germination, they will germinate in the morning. So in effect, even though it's too cold today for them to germinate, it's really the temperature at midnight when it goes into the next day which will dictate whether or not those plants will carry on growing. If it didn't achieve that temperature, which in this case for our wheat is 41 degrees, then it would just sit there. There is one exception for some reason. The corn will let you plant it on the first day of each year, unless there's snow on the ground, which can happen, and it will grow regardless of the soil temperatures. That happens on the first day of the game, first day of spring, and it happens the first day of spring each year. That's a glitch as far as I can tell. Whether you want to take advantage of that, that is up to you. Now when it comes to harvesting, it's going to be a set number of days in this case after you've planted them. Now, plant withering is on, but you don't really have to worry about that, apart from the fact that on the first day of winter, anything that's still in the ground will die. All the grass will die. There'll be no more grass to cut. If you've got any crops left in the fields, it will die. Any time after it's harvested, I've yet to see anything wither except for on that first day of winter. So you can hold, you don't have to harvest something the day it actually is ready to harvest. Now, each season is split into 3 stages. So early spring, mid-spring, late spring. That is where the number of days will vary depending on the number of days per season. Here it's 1 day per season step. So all things being well, in terms of soil temperature, etc., a growth stage will be 1 day. Now everything kind of clicks in at midnight pretty exactly in seasons mode. So in terms of your expenses, in terms of your plant growth, and also in terms of things like your grass, which will decay over time, as we'll go into more detail on later, that will all kick in at midnight. So do be aware of that. Now, we've got the summer in the middle. If you plant anything during those summer days, it will die, from my experiences. Soybean and corn, oilseed radish again, poplar and grass, those you can plant all year round, they won't necessarily grow. But any of those other crops that haven't got a green bar on those days will absolutely die. They won't remain dormant like they can over the winter. Now, in autumn, you'll see we have a second planting season for wheat, barley and canola. If you plant crops here, you're not going to get an extra harvest anywhere along the way. They will literally sit in the field for a year, up to a year, waiting for the next harvest season. So do bear that in mind. If you plant your crops again in the autumn, really turn your fields around very quickly, you are going to have nothing to do with those fields apart maybe some fertilizing for at least 10 days, maybe more. So do bear that in mind. And of course, if you're playing with more days per season, that's more days with very little field work to do. And that is the biggest thing that you need to know about seasons, is that everything is staggered. Don't go into this game with the turn and burn mentality of the standard game, because that is not how this is played. You will have the whole of summer to mow grass. You will have the whole of winter to do forestry. There is very little else to do. Your animals will need tending, but in terms of field work, there's very, very little to be done. And this is where adjusting the game speed and deciding on the number of days per season you want comes into play. Basically, I've been playing, I've got 3 farms on the go with seasons on. I played them all 3 days per season, really, so I could really get through and learn about the game a little quicker. I've been playing the whole thing on 5 times speed, and I have found that in terms of the game's working day, which is supposed to be 12 hours, 6 a.m. till 6 p.m, we'll discuss that again a little later, 5 times speed is exactly right. You get a good, you'll get a good job done in that period of time, and then you skip night onto the next day, which I shall show you when we've come out of this explanation here. Now, the next screen we're going to look at is this here economy screen. Now, this shows you fluctuations throughout the seasons on prices for selling. Now, I will point out that the numbers on these graphs will not necessarily equate to the prices that you'll get in your game, depending on your difficulty level, etc. However, proportionally, they will be correct. Particularly interesting is stuff like the pigs, where there is definitely a good time of the year to sell your pig production, and there's definitely a bad time of year to do it. And that's all down to management having the food to carry them through till the price is right. And the same with your crops. You're going to be harvesting everything in the autumn. So can you afford to keep your soybeans for maybe here 9 game days until the price is at its highest? Now that again is down to how your farm is being managed. Okay, I hope you got all that, and there's one more thing you need to know, and that is that right here in the help screen in the game, there is now an whole seasons section added in. Now this will give you all the basic information that you need. It will tell you when to expect your animals to breed, it will tell you when they'll produce, it will give you a bit of an overview of what is going on. I'd highly recommend that before you start playing seasons you do read through this. Most of the information that's in here I've now put into this video with a bit of extra detail, but this is a really thorough grounding in how this mod works, and well done to them for adding this screen in. Now before we look at a couple of aspects of the game in a bit more detail, I'm just going to give you a little tour here, and you will notice that there's no crop in this field, whereas there usually is in the game without the mod. Now seasons, whenever you install a seasons mod, whether you start a new game or you install a seasons mod into a game that you've already been running, you will start on the first day of spring, and it will warn you that it is going to reset all crop stages, or ask you if you want to keep them. If you've got a saved game which you want to put seasons into, please just harvest everything, save the game, load the game with seasons installed. If you've got crops in the fields, seasons won't be able to translate the crop states properly into seasons from where you were. So you might get a crop first day of spring stuck at a growth stage. It will sit in that field forever, and it will never mature. It may die. So if you do want to put seasons into a game you've already been playing, harvest all your crops, save the game, and then load the game in with the seasons, and no crops to worry about. And we've popped over to Altenstein, which is where we're going to be based for the rest of this little look at the seasons mod. It's the end of the first working day. It's 6 PM, little jump for joy. We've done lots of good work. Skip night, so left bumper, right bumper and Y will bring you up this menu, and you have the choice of skipping to 6 AM or you have the choice of skipping to dawn, and dawn will vary by season and by time of year. Now something else that is very different in seasons is bales and how they behave, so we're going to have a look at that. Now here we have a wrapped bale of grass which is turning into silage. It'll take about a day in seasons mode, and that's on 3 days per season. We've got bale of grass, bale of hay, all freshly made, all 4,000 litres, and then we've got 2 inside in cover, again both 4,000 litres. Now the gadget here we're using is called the Wopster. It's part of the mod. It's available in the miscellaneous section, and it will be used for measuring bales as we're doing here. It can measure the contents of pallets and tell you what your crops are up to. Now here we are, we're 24 hours later. The grass has deteriorated. It's lost 700 nearly litres out of it. Grass will start deteriorating even in a baled state from the moment you have cut it. Hay, once it's baled, and also straw, will stay absolutely fine as long as they're kept in the dry. Now there you go, got 5 hours to go on that bale of silage. So we're going to skip forward again, and it's started to rain. Perfect. Now our bale of hay that is left outside, he is starting to deteriorate. He's lost 1,000 litres of volume. The grass is just continuing its natural decay. Now the guys inside will check. The hay's going to be fine. The grass will deteriorate at the same rate as the one outside. The rain won't actually doesn't seem to affect that too much. Now what this does mean is that in theory, unless you have a silo, as you do actually get on this map, that will keep your grass, straw and hay inside it, you are going to have no grass to feed your cows over the winter and into spring, because you won't be able to mow again until the summer. The game compensates for this by automatically putting up your milk production during those months to accommodate for the lack of grass, so don't worry about that too much. Now you can see here we've got hay in our trailer, and time's running quite quickly, but you can see it disappearing as it gets wet. If you can, put the cover on your trailer and it will protect it. No such issues with crops. They can be left out in the rain, they can be left on the floor, nothing bad will happen to them. We've moved over to Altenstein for this vehicle section of the seasons guide. Now you'll see up in the top left under the info panel, 28.7 engine hours or 10 days left till maintenance required. Vehicle maintenance is now an issue, and you can do it at either the garage, at the sell point, at the shop. You can do it if you have your own vehicle workshop on the map, or you've built one that you can buy as a placeable. And you can also use it, do it using the toolbox mod. Now you simply enter the menu and you press repair, and you will have a repair and maintenance price. Now just be aware there's a minimum price, so if you do your maintenance every day, you're basically going to pay the same money over and over again. you are better off waiting a few days. However, if you do let your vehicle get over its maintenance due date within a couple of days of hard use, something like this will happen when you're towing some equipment. And it will get worse over time. If you get really stuck, just leave the equipment. The tractor will run fine. So keep up to date on your maintenance, and also note that doing your maintenance or customizations at your own workshop or with your own toolbox is a little bit cheaper than doing it over at the sales point maintenance bay. Right, let's have a look at the vehicle overview menu, because there is something else you should take into account. Look down here at that's the Massey Ferguson bulldozer I'm using on this map, $66 a day, the Hurleyman for $113. Now in the shop, it will tell you that that's going to cost $18 a day, and the Hurleyman is $210 a day. Seasons just completely rebalance vehicle maintenance costs and also vehicle depreciation based on value, it would seem, and hours used. So the more expensive your piece of equipment and the more you use it, the higher the maintenance costs and the higher the depreciation. That is something to take into account, but it's also the depreciation is much slower than in the vanilla game. So it can sometimes be completely feasible to buy a piece of equipment, use it, and then sell it back when you're done with it. That may be, in some circumstances, a better option than leasing. And one of the hidden secrets of the Seasons mod is when you buy a piece of equipment, you can keep it for half an hour in real time, take it back and sell it, and you will get the full money back. Now you may see that as an exploit or a glitch. It's something to consider if you need to, or it's a way to play the game. You can basically grab a baler, do your baling, take it back. You don't have to take it back, you just click sell. So one-off pieces of equipment, there is an option of grabbing it from the shop, using it, selling it, and it not actually costing you a penny. I think that might be deliberate just to help you out a little bit, because the way you need to manage your vehicle fleet and equipment in this game is very, very different. The key difference is obviously that you are only harvesting once a year. Certainly from your fields, you get one income per field per year. Your pigs only breed in spring and autumn. Your cows will make milk throughout the year, that will vary seasonally slightly, and your sheep only make wool during the spring and the summer. So having overheads, daily costs hanging on your account is an absolute nightmare. Basically, when you start a Seasons game, you sell everything apart from the things that you really, really are going to need. And on some maps you can actually take back new equipment, because they start with brand new equipment. Altenstein does. You can actually sell it, start the game for full price, do that anyway, get loads of money, and just build your farm from scratch. And by the way, I'm deliberately fast forwarding time so you can actually see the season transition here. I'd never leave this running like this when I'm playing the game. It can actually glitch the game, but just for your benefit, yeah, there you go. Now, leasing is basically the fundamental part of this game, and the leasing prices have been completely rebalanced. So if you look here at the Sampo harvester, this is from the vanilla game, and you can see the base cost is $2,480. Then the hourly operating cost, which is what really kills you in leasing vehicles that you use a lot, is $6,200. Now in Seasons you'll see the base price and the operating per hour price are the same. That means you're paying less for the hours that you use the equipment for, which is why leasing overall is much cheaper. And seriously, when you start the game, it is gonna be probably 8 days before you even need a harvester. So having equipment sat around your farm costing you daily maintenance charges, and also the interest on the loan you've got for having that. Why have $100,000 piece of machinery sat doing nothing, and $100,000 on a loan you're paying interest on? And in some of my playthroughs, like that Goldcrest Valley playthrough, my daily interest charge is my highest daily charge. And the Altenstein mod map is also slightly unusual because it starts us off with pigs and cows. Now, starting off the game in seasons with pigs and cows can put us in a little bit of a situation. Now, this is on 9 days per season, and the troughs in seasons mode hold 3 days of supplies, not 6. That's an important thing to bear in mind. Now, as you can see, all the bars are full, or pretty much full. To illustrate the point I made earlier, we put that down to 3 days per season, then check the animal menu. You can see that because we've changed the number of days, this is still 3 days worth of food to fill a trough. The troughs are now no longer full. So there you go. That's illustrating just how the number of days per season affects the daily food that your animals need. And this is where you might want to play with more days per season, because when you get a large amount of animals on your farm, you are going to need to spend a lot of time feeding them. Now, by going to 6 days per season, that'll give you twice as much time in game days to feed them the same amount of food. Same when you get a huge amount of fields. You might want those extra days to complete your harvest, complete your planting, etc. So really, the bigger your farm, the more days you're probably going to want per season to enable you to manage it without too much of a panic. But getting back to the situation here, now I've started in hard mode, which means I've no food in the silos. I cannot possibly sustain those pigs until I have progressed the game enough to make a harvest. So I have options. You can actually keep them through spring, which is the first of the breeding seasons, because pigs are going to breed in spring and in autumn. You'll make 1 pig. I then sold off the 10 pigs, kept 1 pig, my favourite pig, and just had to go without until I could do a harvest and get some food. Now, cows are all down to mowing, obviously, as we know. Now, most maps have a lot of grass on them. You are definitely going to be able to cope with cows here, and you're also going to be able to probably accommodate quite a high number of cows in any game as long as you can see the grass. However, do bear in mind that again, you're only going to get 2 grass cuts per year, just like you're only going to get 1 harvest. So, for instance, to illustrate the point, on my Goldcrest farm, which I started this video off with, in seasons mode, the starter fields on that farm, plus a little couple of patches I've ploughed out, they will keep 30 pigs going a year perfectly with the amount of produce those fields produce. In the vanilla game without the mod, those same fields will keep 300 pigs going and make about $80,000 a day. That is how different things are in this mod. Everything is scaled down, everything is smaller, everything takes time. And you will need some planning, because you will not know how many pigs you can keep on your farm until you know how much food your fields can produce to feed them. So that's a very important thing to bear in mind. And just to help you with that, I'm now going to show you the food the pigs need per season and per year, because you really do need to know this before you start. And there's the figures there. I'm not going to read them out. Use your snippet tool, write them down, freeze the frame, whatever. The column down the right is what you'll need for 10 pigs to keep them healthy for 1 year. And you need to know what your fields can produce before you commit to buying your pigs. That's why I'm telling you this one up front. And bear in mind, you can get away with running out of one of the food types. It will affect their condition, but not their health too badly. If you run out of all food types, or you run out of water, their condition will plummet and take days, seasons to get back, and they will die if you don't get back to them in time, and they will die en masse. It's not like 1 a day. You'll suddenly have none. And here's a tip I've learned from experience. I'm not sure why this is necessary. Basically, to cut a long story short, if you have no animals on your farm and you buy animals, if you go and buy 10 animals, they will go into your animal enclosure and they will be on 0% condition. I did that the first time I tried to run a pig farm, and it took over 2 years to get them up percent by percent up to 89%, I believe. And that was with them fully fed all food groups the whole time. So what you need to do when you buy your first animals is you buy 1 animal. He's put your health up to 80%. what you need to then do is sell your one animal, and then buy as many animals as you actually want, and then they will all be at 80%. Make sure you do that. You can also do that if you actually go to the animal trader, take your trailer with you, buy one animal into your trailer, sell him back, put him back in your trailer with the rest of the animals, and you'll get the same instant 80% health. That is very important. It will waste you so much time and money. Certainly did me, trying to grind my pig production up from 0%. Right, and just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you why you actually shouldn't do what I just did there and put animals into an enclosure with no food and no water. Their condition will start dropping quite quickly. There you go. It will take days to put the percent back on. You will drop. If you leave it long enough, you will lose the animals. They will die very quickly. So if you put these animals in here, even on 5 times speed, you went off and then actually went and cut some grass for them because you'd forgotten. By the time you get back, you're going to put yourself back for a few seasonal steps of them developing their health and increasing their production. So please, please, please put the water and as many of their food types as you can into the animals' troughs before you put the animals in there. There you go. We've lost nearly 10% already, and even though I've sped up time, that is in 2 hours. 2 hours, lost 10%. Right, and we're left with just a few more things to cover based on my play experience, and the first one is this. It is doing jobs for other farmers. The income is greatly reduced. This is a quick job, fair enough, but it's only $406. You do jobs for other farmers to get the price you're going to buy their fields off them down. That is worth more to you by doing the job than the actual cash income. Something else to bear in mind is that if workers work before 6 AM or after 6 PM or at weekends, so keep an eye on your daily sheet, keep a track of which day it is, you will have to pay them time and a half, which can hit you. And don't leave implements connected to tractors, and don't leave the engines running when you're not using. Remember to switch them off, because both those things will tick up the use time, add into maintenance costs, lease costs, etc. So do bear that in mind. So that's it. That's all I know about seasons so far. Please leave me a comment if you've got any better ideas, or you think you have figured something out better than I have. I'd certainly like to hear about those things. I'm going to leave you now just looking at these beautiful views that you get to see, but you really need to play this mod for yourself. Even if you don't like the way the game plays, install the mod on one of the maps with lots of deciduous trees. Just have a look at what it does to the landscape. It is absolutely beautiful. I highly recommend this mod. It is basically what keeps me playing the game now.